Chapter 1: The Reset Mindset. Why Transformation Requires Mental Preparation. Days 1 to 9. Welcome to day 1 of the rest of your life. I know that sounds dramatic, maybe even cheesy, but here's the truth. If you're listening to this right now, something inside you has decided that enough is enough. Maybe you're tired of feeling stuck. Maybe you've hit rock bottom. Maybe you just woke up one morning and realized you've been living someone else's version of your life. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know something important. You're exactly where you need to be. Not because your current situation is perfect, but because you've reached the most powerful moment any human being can experience, the moment of decision. The Greek philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." For the next 90 days, we're going to prove that statement true. We're going to transform not just your circumstances, but the person you are at your core. But before we dive into the how, we need to address the why. Why 90 days? Why not 30 or 6 months or a year? The answer lies in neuroscience. Research shows that it takes approximately 66 days to form a new habit, but closer to 90 days to fundamentally rewire neural pathways. 90 days is long enough to create lasting change, but short enough that you can see the finish line. It's the perfect window for transformation. Think about the last 90 days of your life. What did you accomplish? What changed? For most people, the answer is not much. 90 days passed in a blur of routines, distractions, and autopilot living. But imagine if you had spent those 90 days intentionally building the life you actually want. Where would you be right now? That's what we're about to do. But I need to be honest with you about something. This isn't going to be easy. Transformation never is. The author James Clear wrote, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." Over the next 90 days, we're building systems that will catch you, support you, and elevate you. Let me tell you about Sarah. She came to this protocol after a devastating divorce. Having gained 40 pounds, lost her career momentum, and feeling like a complete stranger to herself. She told me, "I don't even know who I am anymore." Maybe you can relate to that feeling. 90 days later, Sarah wasn't just a different person. She was the person she'd always been meant to be. Not because she became someone new, but because she removed all the layers of conditioning, fear, and limiting beliefs that had been covering her authentic self. That's what this protocol does. It doesn't make you into someone you're not. It reveals who you truly are beneath all the noise. Now, let's talk about the mindset you'll need for this journey. The psychologist Carol Dweck distinguished between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their qualities are carved in stone. People with a growth mindset believe they can develop and improve through effort and learning. For the next 90 days, you're adopting a growth mindset on steroids. I call it the transformation mindset. Here's what that means. First, you accept total responsibility. Not blame, responsibility. There's a difference. Blame looks backward and finds fault. Responsibility looks forward and finds power. Everything in your life right now is the result of your past decisions. And everything in your life 90 days from now will be the result of the decisions you make starting today. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is your mantra for days 1 through 9. Second, you let go of your old identity. This is harder than it sounds. We're attached to our stories about ourselves. I'm not a morning person. I'm just not good with money. I've always been shy. These stories feel true because you've lived them for so long. But they're not truth. They're habits of thinking. The author of Atomic Habits, James Clear, says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. For 90 days, you're going to vote differently. And slowly, your identity will shift. Third, you embrace discomfort. Growth lives outside your comfort zone. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. The Navy SEALs have a saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's your mission for the next 3 months. But here's the beautiful part. Discomfort is temporary. The regret of not trying lasts forever. Which do you want to live with? Fourth, you commit to the process, not just the outcome. Most people fail at transformation because they're obsessed with the destination. They want to be fit, successful, confident, happy, but they hate the daily work required to get there. The philosopher Alan Watts asked, what if the journey is the destination? For the next 90 days, you're going to fall in love with the process of becoming. Each day is a small victory. Each decision is progress. Let me share the 3-phase structure of this 90-day protocol. Phase 1, days 1 to 30, demolition and foundation. This is where we tear down the old structures that aren't serving you and lay the groundwork for your new life. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's essential. You'll work on basic health, sleep, and breaking destructive patterns. Phase 2, days 31 to 60, building and momentum. This is where the magic happens. You'll build new habits, new skills, and new ways of thinking. The momentum will carry you forward. You'll start seeing real changes and believing in yourself again. Phase 3, days 61 to 90, refinement and integration. This is where transformation becomes permanent. You'll refine your systems, integrate your changes, and prepare for life beyond the protocol. You'll become the kind of person who doesn't need a protocol anymore, because excellence has become your default. Now, let's talk about what you need for days 1 through 9 specifically. This first week is all about mental preparation. You're not trying to change everything at once. You're simply observing, planning, and setting yourself up for success. Your days 1 to 3 assignment, the honest inventory. Get a journal, not your phone, an actual physical journal. Something about writing by hand engages your brain differently. Over these first 3 days, you're going to conduct a brutally honest inventory of your current life. Write down where you are right now in these key areas: physical health and energy, career and finances, relationships and social life, emotional well-being and mental health, personal growth and learning, purpose and meaning. Don't judge yourself. Don't make excuses. Just observe and document. This is your before picture. You need to know where you're starting to appreciate where you're going. The author Brené Brown says, we can't change what we don't acknowledge. So acknowledge it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Your day's 4 to 6 assignment, the vision creation. Now that you know where you are, decide where you're going. But not just any vision, a compelling, detailed, emotionally charged vision of your life 90 days from now. Close your eyes and imagine, what does your ideal day look like 90 days from now? What time do you wake up? How do you feel in your body? What do you eat for breakfast? What work are you doing? Who are you spending time with? How do you spend your evening? Get specific. The more detail, the more real it becomes. Write this vision in present tense, as if it's already true. I wake up at 6 and feeling energized and clear-minded. My body feels strong and healthy. Napoleon Hill, who studied successful people for decades, discovered that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Your mind doesn't distinguish between real and vividly imagined experiences. So imagine vividly. Your day's 7 to 9 assignment, the success architecture. Now we build your systems. Based on your honest inventory and your compelling vision, what needs to change? What habits need to die? What new routines need to be born? Create your daily non-negotiables. The 5 to 7 things you'll do every single day for the next 90 days. These might include morning routine, meditation, exercise, journaling, healthy eating basics, learning time, relationship connection time, evening wind-down routine. Write these down. Make them specific. Exercise is vague. 30 minutes of movement before 9 a.m. is a system. The entrepreneur and author Tim Ferriss says, focus on being productive instead of busy. Your non-negotiables are your productivity anchors. Everything else is just noise. Before we close this chapter, I want to address the voice in your head that's probably saying, this sounds great, but I've tried before and failed. What makes this time different? Here's what makes it different. This time, you're not relying on willpower or motivation. You're building systems. You're not trying to be a different person. You're becoming who you actually are. And most importantly, this time you have a guide, a map, and a proven protocol. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You've already taken that step by being here. Now let's take the next 89. Days 1 to 9 practice, the morning declaration. Every morning for these first 9 days, before you do anything else, stand in front of a mirror and say out loud, I am transforming. I am breaking free from my past. I am building the life I deserve. Today, I show up for myself. Today, I take one more step forward. Today, I am enough, and I am becoming more. Yes, it will feel silly at first. Do it anyway. Words shape reality. The story you tell yourself becomes the life you live. Welcome to your transformation. Let's begin. Chapter 2. Breaking free from your past. Release limiting beliefs and old identity. Days 10 to 18. You've made it through the first 9 days. That means you're serious. Most people quit before they even start. You're different. You're still here. Now comes the hard part, letting go of who you used to be. Here's a truth that might sting a little. You cannot create a new future while clinging to an old identity. The person who got you here cannot take you there. You need to evolve. And evolution requires shedding the old skin. The psychologist Carl Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. For days 10 through 18, you're going to actively choose. You're going to identify the beliefs, stories, and patterns that have been keeping you stuck, and you're going to release them. Let me tell you about Marcus. He was a successful lawyer on paper, but miserable in reality. He had built his entire identity around being the responsible one, the provider, the person who never fails. These identities served him once. They got him through law school, landed him a job, impressed his family. But they were also suffocating him. He couldn't pursue his real passion for photography because lawyers don't become photographers. He couldn't admit he was struggling because I'm the strong one who helps everyone else. He was trapped in an identity that no longer fit. During days 10 through 18, Marcus did the uncomfortable work of examining these identities. He asked himself, who am I without these labels? What do I actually want, not what I'm supposed to want? The answer surprised him. Within 90 days, he had created an exit plan from law, started a side business in commercial photography, and more importantly, found peace with himself. Not because he became someone new, but because he stopped being someone he never really was. Let's break down the work for these 9 days. The limiting beliefs audit, days 10 to 12. A limiting belief is any thought that holds you back from your potential. These beliefs usually sound like, I'm not smart enough. Success is for other people. I always mess up relationships. Money is hard to make. I'm too old/young to start over. I don't have what it takes. These beliefs feel like facts. They're not. They're just thoughts you've practiced thinking for so long that they've become automatic. The cognitive psychologist Aaron Beck, who developed cognitive behavioral therapy, discovered that our thoughts create our emotions, which drive our behaviors, which create our results. Change the thought at the top, and everything below it shifts. Here's your assignment. For 3 days, become a detective of your own mind. Every time you notice a negative thought about yourself or your capabilities, write it down. Don't judge it. Don't argue with it yet. Just notice and document. You'll probably be shocked by how many limiting beliefs you discover. The average person has hundreds of them running on repeat like background music. You've just never paid attention before. The origin story investigation, days 13 to 15. Now that you've identified your limiting beliefs, it's time to ask, where did these come from? Most of our deepest beliefs were installed in childhood. A parent said, money doesn't grow on trees, and you internalize scarcity. A teacher said, you're not good at math, and you decided you weren't smart. A relationship ended, and you concluded you're unlovable. These moments created grooves in your brain, neural pathways that your thoughts traveled down automatically. The neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that nerve cells that fire together wire together. You've been firing these limiting belief neurons for years. They're deeply wired. But here's the good news. Neuroplasticity means your brain can rewire at any age. You can create new pathways. You can choose different thoughts. For days 13 through 15, take each limiting belief and ask, what did I first start believing this? Who taught me this belief? What evidence do I have that it's actually true? What would be possible if this belief wasn't true? Write out the answers. This isn't just a mental exercise. Writing engages different parts of your brain and makes the work more effective. Let me give you an example. One woman in the program had the belief, I'm not creative. When she investigated, she remembered being 7 years old, excited to show her mother a drawing. Her mother, distracted and stressed, had said, that's nice, honey, but your sister is the artist in the family. One throwaway comment, not even meant to be cruel, installed a belief that this woman carried for 35 years. It stopped her from pursuing design, writing, and any creative endeavor. She had organized her entire life around being the practical one, not the creative one. Once she saw where the belief came from, she could finally question it. Was it true? Or was it just something someone said once when she was 7? The identity redesign, days 16 to 18. Now that you've identified and questioned your limiting beliefs, it's time to consciously choose new ones. This is where you actively redesign your identity. The entrepreneur and speaker Ed Milet teaches about having multiple identities for different areas of your life. You can be the person who takes care of their health and simultaneously be the person who builds successful businesses and the person who shows up fully in relationships. For these 3 days, you're going to write out your new identity statements. Not affirmations that feel fake, but declarations based on who you're becoming through your actions. Instead of "I am rich," which your brain will reject as false, try "I am someone who makes smart financial decisions and continuously increases my value." Instead of "I am confident," too vague, try "I am someone who speaks up for myself and takes bold action despite fear." The author of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz, discovered that our self-image acts like a thermostat. If you see yourself as someone who weighs 200 pounds, your behaviors will keep returning you to 200 pounds even if you temporarily lose weight. But if you genuinely shift your self-image to "I'm the kind of person who maintains a healthy weight," your behaviors align automatically. Write out 10 identity statements for your new self. I am the kind of person who, I am someone who, I show up as someone who. Read these every morning and evening. Speak them out loud. Let them sink into your subconscious. Your brain is listening and it's starting to believe. The forgiveness work, essential for days 10 to 18. We cannot fully discuss breaking free from the past without addressing forgiveness. This might be the most important work you do in these 9 days. Who do you need to forgive? Maybe it's the parent who didn't show up for you. Maybe it's the partner who betrayed you. Maybe it's the friend who abandoned you. Maybe it's the person who abused or hurt you. And most importantly, do you need to forgive yourself? The Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield says, "Forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better past." Read that again. You cannot change what happened. The only question is, are you going to let it continue controlling your future? Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you excuse harmful behavior. It means you refuse to carry that weight anymore. You're putting down the heavy bag you've been carrying for miles. Not for them, for you. On day 16 or 17, sit down and write a letter to someone you need to forgive. You don't have to send it. In fact, you probably shouldn't send it. This letter is for you. Write everything you never got to say. All the hurt, all the anger, all the disappointment. Get it out of your body and onto the page. Then, at the end of the letter, write, "I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I release you from my story. I release myself from this pain." Some people burn the letter in a symbolic release. Others tear it up. Others keep it as a reminder of their strength. Do whatever feels right for you. And if you need to forgive yourself for the mistakes you made, the opportunities you missed, the ways you betrayed yourself, write that letter too. Be gentle with yourself. The poet Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Your mistakes weren't failures. They were lessons preparing you for who you're becoming. The release ritual, day 18. On day 18, you're going to perform a simple but powerful ritual. Take everything you've written about your limiting beliefs, your old identity, the things you're releasing, all of it. Find a quiet place outdoors if possible. Hold these pages and say out loud, "I acknowledge my past. I honor the lessons it taught me. And now I release it. I'm not who I was. I am becoming who I'm meant to be. Today, I let go of everything that no longer serves me." Then destroy the pages. Burn them safely. Tear them up and scatter them. Bury them. However you do it, make it ceremonial. Make it count. This might seem silly or overly dramatic. Do it anyway. Your subconscious mind responds to ritual and symbol. You're marking a clear line between the old you and the new you. The author of The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer, writes, "The truth is that most of life will unfold in accordance with forces far outside your control, regardless of what your mind says about it. You cannot control everything that happened to you, but you can control what you do with it now." Days 10 to 18 practice, the evening release. Every evening before bed, close your eyes and visualize yourself walking into a beautiful, empty room. In this room is a large chest. You walk up to the chest, open it, and place inside it one thing from your past: a regret, a resentment, a limiting belief, a painful memory. You close the chest. You lock it. You leave the room and close the door behind you. Say out loud, "I release this. It has no power over my tomorrow." This simple practice trains your brain to actively let go instead of ruminating. You're practicing release. And what we practice, we become. You're almost a third of the way through your transformation. The foundation is set. The old is being cleared away. Now we build. Chapter 3. The Foundation, Health, Energy, Vitality, days 19 to 27. Let's talk about something that might make you uncomfortable. You cannot transform your life if you're exhausted, sick, and running on empty. I know you want to talk about career success, financial freedom, and relationship fulfillment. We'll get there. But first, we need to fix the vehicle that carries you through life, your body. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "Health is not everything, but without health, everything is nothing." He was right. You can have all the ambition, all the plans, all the dreams in the world, but if you don't have the energy to execute them, they remain fantasies. For days 19 through 27, we're building your physical foundation. Not because you need to look a certain way, but because you need to feel a certain way. Energy, vitality, strength, clarity. These aren't luxuries. They're necessities for transformation. Let me tell you about David. He started this protocol weighing 300 pounds, pre-diabetic, chronically exhausted, and secretly wondering if this was just how life would be from now on. He was only 38 years old, but felt 60. David wanted to focus on his career and finances. That's why he came to the program. But I made him start with his health. He resisted at first. "I don't have time to work out," he said. "I need to focus on making money." I told him what I'm telling you now. Everything starts with your physical state. Your body is the hardware. Everything else is software. If the hardware is crashing, the software won't run properly. Within the first 30 days, David lost 15 pounds, started sleeping through the night, and noticed his thinking was clearer. By day 90, he had lost 42 pounds, yes. But more importantly, he had energy he hadn't felt in 15 years. That energy led to better work performance, which led to a promotion. The physical transformation unlocked everything else. Now, let's break down these 9 days into 3 critical areas: sleep, nutrition, and movement. The sleep revolution, days 19 to 21. Sleep is the foundation of the foundation. The neuroscientist Matthew Walker, author of Why We Sleep, calls sleep the single most effective thing you can do to reset your brain and body health. Yet most people treat sleep like an inconvenience, something to minimize so they can get more done. This is backwards. When you're sleep deprived, you're operating at half capacity. Your decision-making suffers. Your emotional regulation fails. Your immune system weakens. Your metabolism slows. You age faster. You literally die younger. Here's what we're implementing for days 19 through 21. Non-negotiable bedtime. Calculate backwards from when you need to wake up. If you need to be up at 6 a.m. and you need 8 hours of sleep, then 10 p.m. is your bedtime. Not your start getting ready for bedtime. Your lights out, eyes closed time. Evening wind down routine. Starting at 9 p.m., 1 hour before bed, you begin your wind down. No screens. The blue light from devices suppresses melatonin and keeps your brain alert. Instead, dim the lights, read a physical book, take a warm shower, do light stretching, journal. Bedroom environment. Your bedroom should be cool, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Completely dark, blackout curtains, or a mask, and quiet. White noise machine if needed. Your bedroom is for sleep and intimacy only, not for work, not for eating, not for watching TV. Morning sunlight. Within 30 minutes of waking, get outside and expose your eyes to natural sunlight for at least 10 minutes. This sets your circadian rhythm and tells your body it's time to be alert. The chronobiologist Sachin Panda's research shows this simple practice dramatically improves sleep quality at night. For 3 days, you're going to be rigorous about this. Track your sleep. Notice how you feel. Most people are shocked by how much better they feel with consistent quality sleep. It's not magic, it's biology. The nutrition reset, days 22 to 24. I'm not going to give you a restrictive diet. Diets fail 95% of the time because they're unsustainable and miserable. Instead, I'm going to give you principles. The author Michael Pollan summarized nutrition in 7 words. Eat food. Not too much. Mostly plants. That's it. That's the whole game. Everything else is details and marketing. Here's your nutrition protocol for these 3 days and beyond. Eat real food. If your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food, don't eat it. An apple? Food. A Cheeto? Not food. It's a food-like product created in a lab. Meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, whole grains. These are foods. Everything else is optional at best, harmful at worst. Protein priority. Every meal should include protein. Protein builds and repairs tissue, keeps you full longer, stabilizes blood sugar, and supports fat loss if that's a goal. Aim for at least 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. For a 150-pound person, that's about 105 grams. Hydrate properly. Divide your body weight in pounds by 2. That's how many ounces of water you should drink daily. A 180-pound person needs 90 ounces. Most people are chronically dehydrated, which leads to false hunger, fatigue, and brain fog. Eliminate sugar and processed carbs. This is non-negotiable. Sugar and processed carbohydrates spike your blood sugar, crash your energy, increase inflammation, and feed disease. Bread, pasta, rice, and potatoes in moderation are fine. Candy, soda, pastries, and chips need to go. The 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, eat according to these principles. 20% of the time, enjoy life. Have a birthday cake. Eat the pizza with friends. One meal won't destroy your progress, but one meal doesn't give you permission to abandon the entire protocol. Here's the truth that no one wants to hear. You know what healthy eating looks like. You've always known. The problem isn't information, it's execution. For 3 days, you're going to execute. You're going to prove to yourself that you can eat like someone who respects their body. The movement practice, days 25 to 27. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't even need much time. You just need to move your body consistently. The author of Spark, Dr. John Ratey, has researched extensively how exercise affects the brain. His findings: exercise is the single most powerful tool for improving mood, focus, memory, and mental health. It's more effective than most medications for anxiety and depression. Movement does what nothing else can. It releases endorphins. It processes stress hormones. It improves insulin sensitivity. It builds bone density. It creates new brain cells. It literally makes you smarter, happier, and more resilient. Here's your movement protocol. Daily minimum: 30 minutes of movement every single day, no exceptions. This could be walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, dancing, yoga, weight training, sports, anything that elevates your heart rate and makes you breathe harder. The morning advantage: if possible, do your movement first thing in the morning. Morning exercisers are 80% more consistent than afternoon or evening exercisers. Get done before life gets in the way. Strength training: at least twice a week, do some form of resistance training. This could be bodyweight exercises, push-ups, squats, planks, dumbbells, resistance bands, or a gym. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It burns calories even at rest and keeps you young. The 10,000 steps myth. You've probably heard you should walk 10,000 steps per day. The origin of this number: a 1960s Japanese marketing campaign for a pedometer. There's nothing magical about 10,000. But walking is incredible for your health. So aim for as many steps as you can comfortably achieve. Even 7,000 steps per day significantly reduces all-cause mortality. For days 25 through 27, you're establishing your movement habit. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't compare yourself to athletes or fitness influencers. Just move your body and notice how different you feel. The ancient Roman poet Juvenal wrote, "Orandum est uti sit mens sana in corpore sano." We should pray for a healthy mind in a healthy body. But he had it backwards. You don't pray for it. You build it. The energy audit throughout days 19 to 27. As you implement these changes, pay attention to your energy levels throughout the day. Keep a simple log. Morning energy, 1 to 10. Afternoon energy, 1 to 10. Evening energy, 1 to 10. Sleep quality, 1 to 10. You'll start to notice patterns. Maybe you crash mid-afternoon because you're not eating enough protein at lunch. Maybe you sleep poorly because you're drinking coffee after 2 p.m. Maybe you're exhausted in the evening because you're not moving enough during the day. This feedback is gold. Your body is constantly giving you information. Most people just aren't listening. The physician and philosopher Maimonides said, "The wise man should consider that health is the greatest of human blessings. Not wealth, not fame, not success. Health, because without it, nothing else can be fully enjoyed." Days 19 to 27 practice the vitality check-in. Every morning during these 9 days, before you start your day, close your eyes and do a full body scan. Start at the top of your head and move down to your toes. Notice, where do I feel tension? Where do I feel pain? Where do I feel energy? Where do I feel numb or disconnected? Then ask yourself, what does my body need today? Maybe it needs rest. Maybe it needs movement. Maybe it needs water. Maybe it needs better food. Listen to the answer and honor it. Your body is not your enemy. It's not something to punish or force into submission. It's your partner in this transformation. Treat it with respect, and it will carry you further than you ever imagined. You're 1/3 of the way through. The foundation is solid. Now we build the structure. Chapter 4, Rewiring Your Brain, Neuroplasticity and Habit Formation, days 28 to 36. Welcome to day 28. If you made it this far, you're officially in the minority. Studies show that most people abandon new initiatives within 3 weeks. But you're still here. That tells me something important about you. You're committed. Now comes the exciting part. We're going to talk about how your brain actually works and how to hack it for permanent change. The neuroscientist Dr. Michael Merzenich, one of the pioneers of neuroplasticity research, discovered something revolutionary. The brain is not fixed. It's not hardwired. It changes constantly based on what you think, what you do, and what you practice. This changes everything. It means you're not stuck with the brain you have. You can build a better one. The anxious brain can become calm. The unfocused brain can become disciplined. The negative brain can become optimistic, not through positive thinking alone, but through deliberate rewiring. Let me tell you about Jennifer. She came to this protocol with severe anxiety that had plagued her for 20 years. She tried therapy, medication, meditation, everything. Some things helped temporarily, but the anxiety always returned. During days 28 through 36, Jennifer learned about neuroplasticity and applied the specific techniques we're about to cover. She discovered that her anxiety wasn't a life sentence. It was a habit loop her brain had learned so well it became automatic. By day 90, Jennifer's anxiety hadn't disappeared completely. Anxiety is part of being human, but it no longer controlled her life. She had rewired the neural pathways. She had built new default responses. She was literally a different person at the neurological level. Understanding the habit loop, days 28 to 30. The journalist Charles Duhigg, in his book, The Power of Habit, breaks down every habit into 3 components: cue, routine, and reward. The cue triggers the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself. The reward is what your brain gets from it. For example, you feel stressed, cue, so you eat junk food, routine, and you feel temporarily comforted, reward. Your brain remembers. Stress plus junk food equals comfort. The pathway gets stronger every time you repeat it. Here's the key insight. You can't simply delete a habit. You can only replace it. The cue and the reward stay the same, but you change the routine. So, you feel stressed, same cue. So you take 5 deep breaths or go for a walk. New routine. And you feel calmer, same reward. You're working with your brain's natural wiring, not against it. The 2-minute rule and habit stacking, days 34 to 36. Here's a truth about human behavior. We overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. We set unrealistic expectations, fail to meet them, feel discouraged, and quit. The solution? Make it ridiculously easy to start. James Clear's 2-minute rule states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Not the full habit, just the start of it. Want to read more? The habit isn't read for an hour. It's read 1 page. Want to meditate? The habit isn't meditate for 20 minutes. It's sit on the cushion. Want to exercise? The habit isn't work out for an hour. It's put on workout clothes. This seems too simple to work, but it's brilliant psychology. The hardest part of any habit is starting. Once you've started, momentum carries you forward. You sit down to read one page, and you end up reading 10. You put on workout clothes, and you might as well exercise now. You're hacking the resistance. You're making it so easy you can't say no. Now combine this with habit stacking. This is where you attach a new habit to an existing habit. The formula: after I current habit, I will new habit. Examples: after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 2 minutes. After I brush my teeth at night, I will write 3 things I'm grateful for. After I sit down at my desk, I will close my eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Your existing habits are already wired into your brain. They happen automatically. By stacking new habits onto them, you're borrowing that automaticity. For days 34 through 36, you're going to create 3 habit stacks. Choose 3 existing habits you do every day without thinking, and attach new 2-minute habits to them. Write these down in this exact format. After I will be specific. After I walk in my front door from work is better than when I get home. Here's how to use this. Every evening before sleep, spend 5 minutes visualizing yourself as the person you're becoming. See yourself waking up energized. See yourself making healthy choices. See yourself handling stress with calm. See yourself succeeding in your goals. Make it vivid. Engage all your senses. Feel the emotions of being that person. Your brain is absorbing this. It's rewiring itself to match the vision. The author Napoleon Hill, who studied successful people for decades, said, "What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." This isn't mystical, it's neuroscience. Days 28 to 36 practice. The habit tracker. Create a simple habit tracker. This can be a calendar, a journal, or an app. List your 5 most important daily habits. Every day you complete a habit, mark an X. Your only job is to not break the chain. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld used this method to become one of the most successful comedians ever. He wanted to write jokes every day, so he put an X on a calendar each day he wrote. His rule: don't break the chain. The visual feedback is powerful. You see the chain of excess growing. You don't want to break it. Missing one day isn't the problem. It's missing 2 days in a row that starts the downward spiral. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just don't miss 2. Get back on the horse immediately. 1 day off is maintenance. 2 days off is a new habit forming, the habit of quitting. Remember, you're rewiring your brain. Every repetition strengthens the pathway. Every day you show up, you're becoming someone new at the neurological level. You're a third of the way through your transformation, and your brain is already changing. Let's keep going. Chapter 5. The Confidence Code. Building Unshakable Self-Belief. Days 37 to 45. Let's address something that's probably been holding you back for years: the confidence problem. Maybe you don't speak up in meetings because you're afraid you'll sound stupid. Maybe you don't pursue opportunities because you don't think you're qualified. Maybe you stay in relationships or jobs that drain you because you don't believe you deserve better. Here's what I need you to understand. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's not a personality trait that some people have and others don't. Confidence is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed through practice. The psychologist Albert Bandura spent decades researching self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to succeed. He discovered that self-efficacy is built through 4 primary sources: mastery experiences, vicarious experiences, social persuasion, and physiological states. Translation: you build confidence by doing hard things and succeeding, watching others succeed and realizing you can too, surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, and managing your emotional and physical state. For days 37 through 45, we're systematically building your confidence in all 4 areas. Let me tell you about Rachel. She was brilliant, master's degree, years of experience in her field, but she was convinced she was a fraud. Imposter syndrome had her in a chokehold. She'd been passed over for 3 promotions because she never applied for them. Why? I'm not ready yet. I need more experience first. When would she be ready? She didn't know. The goalpost kept moving. During this phase of the protocol, Rachel confronted her confidence deficit head-on. She did the uncomfortable work of building evidence that she was capable. By day 90, she had not only applied for a senior position but gotten it. Not because she magically became more qualified, she was always qualified, but because she finally believed in herself. The competence-confidence loop, days 37 to 39. Here's the paradox. You need confidence to try new things, but you build confidence by trying new things and succeeding. It's a catch-22. The solution? Start with tiny wins that are almost guaranteed. Build momentum. Prove to yourself that you can do hard things. The author Tim Ferriss calls this fear setting instead of goal setting. Before you take action, you clarify. What's the worst that could happen? And if the worst happens, how would I recover? Usually, the worst-case scenario is much less catastrophic than your anxiety makes it seem. You might feel embarrassed. You might fail. You might get rejected. And then, you'd learn from it and try again. That's it. You wouldn't die. Your life wouldn't be ruined. Once you realize that the downside is manageable, the fear loses its grip. For days 37 through 39, you're going to do one thing each day that scares you slightly. Not terrifies you, just makes you a little uncomfortable. Examples. Start a conversation with a stranger. Ask for something you want. Share your opinion when it differs from the group. Post something personal on social media. Make a phone call you've been avoiding. Speak up in a meeting. These don't have to be huge. They just have to stretch you past your current comfort zone. Each time you do this, you're sending your brain a message. I can handle discomfort. I'm capable. The confidence builds one courageous action at a time. The evidence journal, days 40 to 42. Your brain has a negativity bias. It's designed to remember threats and failures more vividly than successes. This was useful when we were avoiding predators, but it's terrible for self-confidence. You discount your accomplishments. You forget evidence of your capability. You remember every failure in vivid detail, but treat successes as flukes or luck. We're going to reverse this pattern with an evidence journal. For 3 days, and ideally, continuing beyond, you're going to write down evidence of your competence. Every day, write 3 things. Something I did well today. A challenge I handled. Evidence that I'm growing/changing. These don't have to be monumental. I got out of bed even though I didn't want to counts. I chose a healthy lunch instead of fast food counts. I had a difficult conversation without losing my temper counts. You're training your brain to notice and remember your capability. Over time, this shifts your self-perception. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's struggling and start seeing yourself as someone who's capable and growing. The psychiatrist David Burns, who developed cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, teaches that our feelings aren't facts, they're interpretations. You feel incompetent not because you are incompetent, but because you're focusing on evidence of incompetence and ignoring evidence of competence. The evidence journal corrects this distortion. It balances the scales. The power pose and physiology, days 43 to 45. Here's something fascinating. Your body language doesn't just reflect your confidence, it creates it. The social psychologist Amy Cuddy researched power posing, standing in confident postures, hands on hips, chest open, taking up space, for just 2 minutes. Her findings: these poses actually change your hormone levels, increasing testosterone and decreasing cortisol. They make you feel more powerful at a biochemical level. The research has been debated and refined, but the core insight remains. Your physiology affects your psychology. When you stand tall, shoulders back, head up, you feel different. When you smile, even if you don't feel happy, your mood improves. Your brain takes cues from your body. For days 43 through 45, you're going to practice power posing. Before any situation where you need confidence, a meeting, a difficult conversation, a presentation, spend 2 minutes in a power pose. Go to a private space, bathroom works fine, and stand like a superhero. Hands on hips, feet apart, chest open, chin up. Yes, it feels ridiculous at first. Do it anyway. Your brain doesn't know you're faking. It responds to the signals your body is sending. Also, pay attention to your everyday posture. Are you slouching? Are your shoulders rounded forward? Are you making yourself small? The martial artist and philosopher Bruce Lee said, "As you think, so shall you become." But we can add, "As you stand, so shall you feel." Reframing failure and rejection. Let's talk about the real confidence killer: fear of failure and rejection. Most people avoid taking risks not because they don't want success, but because they're terrified of failure. They've made failure mean something about their worth as a person. But failure doesn't mean you're inadequate. It means you tried something at the edge of your capability. That's exactly where growth happens. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail 10,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. He successfully found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Each failure was data. Each attempt taught him something. The entrepreneur Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx and a self-made billionaire, credits her success to her father's unique approach to failure. Every week at dinner, he'd ask her and her brother, "What did you fail at this week?" If they had nothing to report, he'd be disappointed. He taught them that failure meant they were trying, risking, growing. What if you adopted this mindset? What if failure became evidence of courage rather than evidence of inadequacy? And rejection? Rejection is just someone saying no, or not right now, or this isn't a fit. It's not a referendum on your worth. It's just information. The author Jia Jiang did an experiment called 100 Days of Rejection, where he deliberately sought out rejection every day for 100 days. He asked strangers for ridiculous things just to get rejected. And he discovered rejection didn't destroy him. Sometimes people said yes to crazy requests. And even when they said no, he survived. He desensitized himself to the thing he feared most. And in doing so, he freed himself to take bigger risks. The confidence affirmations that actually work. I'm not going to tell you to look in the mirror and say, "I am confident," when you don't believe it. Your brain will reject it as false, and it'll make you feel worse. Instead, use affirmations that are believable and process-oriented. I am building my confidence through daily action. I am capable of learning and growing. I am willing to try even when I'm scared. Every day, I'm becoming more comfortable with discomfort. I trust myself to handle whatever comes. These statements are true. Your brain can accept them. And over time, they become more and more true. The psychologist Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset versus fixed mindset is relevant here. People with a fixed mindset believe their qualities are set in stone. People with a growth mindset believe they can develop through effort. Confident people aren't confident because they never doubt themselves. They're confident because they trust that even if they fail or struggle, they'll figure it out. They trust their ability to learn and adapt. That's the confidence we're building. Not arrogance, not false bravado, but a deep, quiet trust in yourself. Days 37 to 45 practice, the Daily Courage Challenge. Every day for these 9 days, do one thing that requires courage. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be slightly outside your comfort zone. Before you do it, rate your anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10. After you do it, rate how bad it actually was on a scale of 1 to 10. You'll notice a pattern. The anticipation is almost always worse than the reality. You build confidence not by feeling confident first, but by acting despite the fear and realizing you survived. Write this down after each courage challenge. I was afraid, and I did it anyway. I am building my confidence. The philosopher Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. The same is true for confidence. It's not something you have or don't have. It's something you practice. You're halfway through your transformation. The foundation is solid. The habits are forming. The confidence is building. Now we go deeper. Chapter 6. Master Your Emotions, Emotional Intelligence and Regulation. Days 46 to 54. Welcome to one of the most important chapters of this entire protocol. Because here's a truth that will change your life. Your success in every area, relationships, career, health, happiness, depends more on your emotional intelligence than on your IQ. You can be brilliant, talented, and hardworking, but if you can't manage your emotions, you'll sabotage yourself repeatedly. You'll explode in anger and destroy relationships. You'll panic under pressure and miss opportunities. You'll sink into depression and abandon your goals. The psychologist Daniel Goleman, who popularized the concept of emotional intelligence, found that EQ, emotional quotient, is a better predictor of success than IQ. Why? Because smart people who can't manage their emotions make terrible decisions. They alienate others. They crumble under stress. But people with high emotional intelligence, they navigate difficult situations with grace. They build strong relationships. They stay calm under pressure. They make wise choices even when they're feeling intense emotions. For days 46 through 54, we're developing your emotional intelligence across 5 core competencies: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Let me tell you about Michael. He was a talented engineer, brilliant at his work, but his career had stalled. Why? He had zero emotional regulation. When things went wrong, he'd explode. When he received feedback, he'd become defensive. His colleagues respected his technical skills but avoided working with him. Michael didn't have an anger problem. He had an emotional regulation problem. He felt emotions intensely but had never learned how to manage them. They controlled him instead of him controlling them. During days 46 through 54, Michael learned the skills we're about to cover. He learned to notice his emotions before they overwhelmed him. He learned to pause instead of reacting. He learned that feelings are information, not commands. By day 90, Michael had received feedback from his manager that his emotional maturity had noticeably improved. 6 months later, he was promoted. His technical skills hadn't changed, his emotional skills had. Self-awareness, naming your emotions, days 46 to 48. The foundation of emotional intelligence is simply noticing what you're feeling. This sounds obvious, but most people are emotionally illiterate. They know they feel bad or good, but can't get more specific than that. The neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett's research shows that people who can precisely label their emotions have better emotional regulation. The act of naming an emotion, "I'm feeling anxious," versus "I feel bad," reduces its intensity. She calls this emotional granularity. Instead of just angry, you might be frustrated, irritated, resentful, or enraged. Instead of just sad, you might be disappointed, lonely, grieving, or melancholic. The more precisely you can name what you're feeling, the better you can understand it and respond to it. For days 46 through 48, you're going to practice the name it to tame it technique, coined by psychiatrist Dan Siegel. Throughout the day, check in with yourself. What am I feeling right now? Then get specific. Use an emotion wheel if you need help. You can find these online with a simple search. Write down 3 emotions you notice each day. For each one, note, what triggered this emotion? Where do I feel it in my body? What is this emotion trying to tell me? Emotions aren't random. They're information. Anger often signals that a boundary has been violated. Anxiety signals potential threat or uncertainty. Sadness signals loss. Guilt signals that you've acted against your values. Self-regulation, the pause between stimulus and response. Days 49 to 51. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." This is the essence of emotional regulation. You can't always control what you feel, but you can always control what you do with that feeling. The problem is that most people have no space between feeling and acting. They feel angry, and they immediately lash out. They feel anxious, and they immediately avoid. They feel hurt, and they immediately withdraw or attack. We're going to create that space. The technique is simple but powerful, the 5-second pause. When you notice a strong emotion arising, you pause for 5 seconds before responding. That's it. Just 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, you notice the emotion. I'm feeling angry right now. Feel it in your body. My chest is tight. My jaw is clenched. Take a breath. One deep, slow breath. Choose your response. How do I want to handle this? 5 seconds sounds too short to matter. But neurologically, it's enough time to shift from your amygdala, your emotional, reactive brain, to your prefrontal cortex, your rational, thoughtful brain. For days 49 through 51, practice this religiously. Every time you feel a strong emotion, pause for 5 seconds before acting. You'll be amazed at how often this prevents you from doing or saying something you'd regret. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The 5-second pause is where you access that power. The RAIN technique for difficult emotions throughout days 46 to 54. The psychologist and meditation teacher Tara Brach developed a powerful technique for working with difficult emotions called RAIN. Recognize, acknowledge that an emotion is present. I'm feeling anxious. Allow, let the emotion be there without trying to fix or suppress it. This anxiety is allowed to be here. Investigate. Get curious about the emotion. Where is it in your body? What does it feel like? What triggered it? What does it need? Nurture. Offer yourself compassion. Place a hand on your heart. Speak to yourself kindly, as you would to a friend who's struggling. This technique does something counterintuitive. Instead of trying to make difficult emotions go away, you move toward them with curiosity and kindness. And paradoxically, they soften and release. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron teaches that we can let the circumstances of our lives harden us so that we become increasingly resentful and afraid, or we can let them soften us and make us kinder and more open to what scares us. RAIN helps emotions soften you instead of harden you. Practice this daily. When a difficult emotion arises, anxiety, anger, sadness, shame, use rain. Don't try to think your way out of it. Feel it, investigate it, and nurture yourself through it. Emotional triggers and pattern recognition. Everyone has emotional triggers, situations, words, or behaviors that consistently provoke strong reactions. Maybe criticism triggers shame. Maybe feeling ignored triggers anger. Maybe uncertainty triggers anxiety. These triggers are usually connected to past wounds. Something happened in your past that sensitized you to this specific situation. Now, years later, similar situations activate the same emotional response. The problem isn't the trigger itself. It's that you're reacting to a past threat as if it's present. You're living in emotional history. For days 52 through 54, you're going to map your triggers. Write down, what situations consistently provoke strong emotions in me? What do these situations have in common? What past experience might have created this sensitivity? What would a more balanced response look like? Once you understand your triggers, you can prepare for them. When you find yourself in a triggering situation, you can think, I know what's happening here. This is my trigger. I don't have to react the way I usually do. The psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, explains that trauma is stored in the body and nervous system, not just in memory. When you're triggered, your body is responding as if the original threat is happening right now. The solution is to bring awareness to the present moment. That was then. This is now. I'm safe. I can choose a different response. Building emotional resilience. Emotional resilience isn't about never feeling difficult emotions. It's about bouncing back quickly when you do. Resilient people experience the same setbacks, disappointments, and challenges as everyone else. The difference is they don't stay stuck in the negative emotion. They feel it, process it, learn from it, and move forward. The psychologist Martin Seligman's research on learned optimism shows that resilient people explain setbacks differently than fragile people. Fragile people explain setbacks as personal, it's my fault. Permanent, it will always be this way. Pervasive, this ruins everything. Resilient people explain setbacks as situational, this specific thing didn't work. Temporary, this is just a moment in time. Specific, this affected one area, not my whole life. Pay attention to how you explain setbacks to yourself. Are you catastrophizing? Are you making temporary problems feel permanent? Are you taking personally things that aren't about you? Shift your explanatory style, and you shift your emotional resilience. Days 46 to 54 practice, the emotion log. For 9 days, keep a simple emotion log. 3 times per day, morning, afternoon, evening, check in with yourself. Write down, what emotions am I feeling? Intensity, 1 to 10. What triggered it? How did I respond? What did I learn? This practice builds self-awareness and helps you spot patterns. You might notice that you're always anxious on Sunday evenings, anticipating the work week, or that you're irritable when you haven't eaten, or that you feel most content after connecting with friends. These patterns are valuable data. Use them to structure your life in ways that support your emotional well-being. The philosopher Aristotle said, anybody can become angry. That is easy, but to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. That's emotional mastery, not the absence of emotion, but the wisdom to work with emotion skillfully. You're building that wisdom right now. Chapter 7. Social Mastery, Relationships, Communication, Boundaries, days 55 to 63. You could have perfect health, unshakable confidence, and complete emotional mastery. But if you can't build meaningful relationships, you'll be miserable. Humans are social creatures. We're wired for connection, and the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. The Harvard study of adult development, which tracked people for over 80 years, found that the single strongest predictor of happiness and longevity wasn't wealth, fame, or career success. It was the quality of relationships. People with strong, supportive relationships lived longer, were healthier, and reported much higher life satisfaction. People who were isolated or had conflictual relationships aged faster, got sicker, and died younger. Relationships aren't a nice-to-have. They're essential, and yet, most of us never learned how to build them skillfully. For days 55 through 63, we're developing your social intelligence, the ability to build deep connections, communicate effectively, set healthy boundaries, and navigate conflict with grace. Let me tell you about Tom. He was successful by every external measure: great job, nice house, financial security. But he was desperately lonely. He had acquaintances, but no real friends. His marriage was dying. His kids barely talked to him. Tom's problem wasn't that he was unlikable. It was that he'd never learned relationship skills. He didn't know how to be vulnerable. He didn't know how to listen. He didn't know how to set boundaries or handle conflict. So he kept people at arm's length and then wondered why he felt so alone. During days 55 through 63, Tom learned the skills we're about to cover. He learned that connection requires vulnerability. He learned that listening is more powerful than talking. He learned that healthy relationships need boundaries, not walls. By day 90, Tom's marriage had completely transformed. His wife told him, "I feel like I'm meeting you for the first time." His relationships with his kids deepened. He even cultivated a few genuine friendships. Same person, different skills, completely different life. The art of deep listening, days 55 to 57. Most people don't listen. They wait for their turn to talk. They're formulating their response while the other person is still speaking. They're distracted by their phones or their own thoughts. Real listening, the kind that builds connection, is rare and powerful. The psychotherapist Carl Rogers called this active listening. It means you're fully present, genuinely curious, and reflecting back what you hear to ensure understanding. Here's what deep listening looks like. You put down your phone. You make eye contact. You let go of your agenda. You ask clarifying questions. You reflect back what you heard. It sounds like you're feeling. You resist the urge to immediately offer advice or shift the topic to yourself. When someone feels truly heard, something magical happens. They feel seen, valued, and understood. They open up more. Trust deepens. Connection happens. For days 55 through 57, your practice is simple. In every conversation, listen more than you speak. Aim for a 70-30 split, 70% listening, 30% speaking. Notice how hard this is. Notice your urge to interrupt, to relate everything back to yourself, to offer unsolicited advice. Notice, and then return to listening. The philosopher Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." There's wisdom in that ratio. The vulnerability equation, days 58 to 60. The researcher Brené Brown has spent decades studying vulnerability, and her findings are clear. Connection requires vulnerability. You cannot have intimacy without risk. But vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing with everyone. It doesn't mean having no boundaries. It means being willing to be seen, really seen, by the people who matter. Brown describes vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. It's the feeling you get when you tell someone you love them first, share something you're struggling with, admit you made a mistake, ask for help, say I don't know, express your true feelings. All of these are risky. You might be rejected. You might be judged. You might be hurt. But without this risk, there's no real connection. You're just two people performing for each other, never letting anyone see beneath the surface. Here's the vulnerability equation. Shallow vulnerability creates shallow connection. Deep vulnerability creates deep connection. If you only share surface-level stuff, work is fine, I'm good, you'll only get surface-level relationships. If you're willing to share what's real, your fears, your dreams, your struggles, you invite others to do the same. For days 58 through 60, practice appropriate vulnerability. This doesn't mean trauma dumping on strangers. It means being real with people you trust. Call a friend and share something you're actually going through, not just the highlight reel. Tell your partner about a fear you have. Admit to someone that you're struggling with something. Notice what happens. In most cases, people will match your level of vulnerability. They'll share something real back. And suddenly, the relationship deepens. The poet David Whyte writes, "The courageous conversation is the one you don't want to have." That's vulnerability. Having the conversation you're scared to have. Setting boundaries without guilt. Days 61 to 63. Here's a truth that took me years to learn. Boundaries aren't walls. Walls keep everyone out. Boundaries let the right people in while keeping harmful dynamics out. People who struggle with boundaries usually fall into one of two categories. The people pleasers. They say yes when they mean no. They overcommit. They sacrifice their own needs to avoid disappointing others. They feel resentful but don't speak up. The wall builders. They've been hurt so many times that they keep everyone at a distance. They don't let anyone get close. They pride themselves on not needing anyone. Both are problematic. Both lead to loneliness and resentment. Healthy boundaries look like this. I'd love to help, but I don't have capacity right now. I need some alone time to recharge. I'm not comfortable with that. I can do X, but not Y. Let me think about it and get back to you. Notice, these aren't mean. They're not harsh. They're honest and respectful to both yourself and the other person. The therapist Nedra Glover Tawwab, author of Set Boundaries, Find Peace, teaches that boundaries are a form of self-respect. When you set a boundary, you're saying, my needs matter. My time matters. My well-being matters. And here's the thing. People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. People who get angry when you set boundaries are people who are benefiting from you having none. The boundary might be saying no to a request, leaving a conversation that's draining you, asking someone to stop doing something that bothers you, protecting your time for something important, not answering a text immediately. Each time you set a boundary, you're training yourself that your needs are valid. You're teaching others how to treat you. And you're building the kind of relationships that are sustainable because they're balanced. Conflict as connection, not combat. Most people avoid conflict because they see it as threatening to the relationship. But the psychologist John Gottman, who has studied relationships for decades, found the opposite. Couples who never fight don't necessarily have better relationships. In fact, the inability to handle conflict often means problems are being swept under the rug until they become catastrophic. Healthy relationships have conflict. The difference is how they handle it. Gottman identified 4 communication patterns that predict relationship failure with over 90% accuracy. He calls them the 4 horsemen. Criticism, attacking someone's character rather than addressing behavior. "You're so selfish" versus "I felt hurt when you forgot our plans." Contempt, disrespect, mockery, eye-rolling, name-calling. This is the strongest predictor of divorce. Defensiveness, refusing to take any responsibility. Making excuses, playing the victim. Stonewalling, shutting down, giving the silent treatment, withdrawing from the conversation. The antidotes? Instead of criticism, use "I feel" statements. Focus on specific behaviors, not character. When you cancel plans at the last minute, "I feel unimportant" is much more productive than "you're unreliable." Instead of contempt, build a culture of appreciation. For every negative interaction, aim for 5 positive ones. Express gratitude. Show respect even when disagreeing. Instead of defensiveness, take responsibility for your part. Even if you think the other person is 90% wrong, own your 10%. "You're right, I should have called" goes a long way. Instead of stonewalling, take a break if you need one, but commit to coming back. "I need 20 minutes to calm down, then I want to finish this conversation." During days 55 through 63, if you have a conflict with someone, practice these antidotes. Notice your habitual patterns. Are you a criticizer? A stonewaller? Work consciously to shift. The author Harriet Lerner writes, "Intimate relationships cannot substitute for a life plan. But to have any meaning or vibrancy, a life plan must include intimate relationships." Relationships aren't optional extras. They're central to a meaningful life. The circle of influence exercise. You've probably heard the saying, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." There's research backing this up. The psychologist David McClelland found that your reference group, the people you compare yourself to and spend time with, determines up to 95% of your success or failure. If you spend time with people who are negative, stuck, and uncommitted to growth, you'll likely become that way too. If you spend time with people who are positive, growing, and pursuing their potential, you'll be pulled upward. This doesn't mean you abandon people who are struggling. It means you're intentional about who has access to your time and energy. Draw 3 concentric circles. Label them. Inner circle, your closest relationships. People who support, challenge, and inspire you. Middle circle, friends and acquaintances. Positive, but not deeply intimate. Outer circle, everyone else. People who drain you or don't align with who you're becoming. Now, honestly assess, who's in each circle? Are you spending most of your time with inner circle people or outer circle people? The harsh truth is, you might need to spend less time with some people. Not out of judgment or superiority, but out of self-preservation. You're trying to transform. Some people will support that. Some people will subtly, or not so subtly, sabotage it. The entrepreneur Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Choose those 5 people carefully. Days 55 to 63 practice. The Connection Challenge. Every day for these 9 days, do one thing to deepen a relationship that matters to you. Send a meaningful text, not just "hey." Make a phone call instead of texting. Have a real conversation without checking your phone. Express appreciation specifically. "I appreciate how you." Ask a deeper question. What's been on your mind lately? Share something vulnerable. Set a boundary clearly and kindly. Repair a relationship that needs repair. Spend quality time with someone you love. Track these in your journal. Notice how the relationship shifts when you show up more fully. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote, "Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality." That depth of connection requires skill, courage, and consistent practice. You're building those skills right now. Chapter 8: The Career Upgrade, Professional Growth, and Financial Mindset, Days 64 to 72. Let's talk about work and money, two areas where most people feel stuck, frustrated, or resigned. Maybe you're in a job you hate, but feel trapped because you need the paycheck. Maybe you're underpaid and undervalued, but don't know how to change it. Maybe you're entrepreneurial, but paralyzed by fear of failure. Maybe you're making decent money, but living paycheck to paycheck with nothing to show for it. Here's what I need you to understand. Your career and financial situation are not fixed. They're the result of decisions, beliefs, and actions, all of which can be changed. For days 64 through 72, we're upgrading your professional trajectory and transforming your relationship with money. Let me tell you about Jessica. She was a mid-level manager at a tech company, making decent money, but feeling completely unfulfilled. She dreamed of starting her own consulting business, but told herself she couldn't afford the risk. She had bills to pay, a mortgage, responsibilities. So she stayed stuck, resentful, watching years pass, getting closer to retirement, but further from herself. During days 64 through 72, Jessica did the career and financial work we're about to cover. She got brutally honest about her money, created a 6-month runway, and developed a clear business plan. By day 90, she had given her notice. 6 months later, she was making more than her corporate salary and actually excited about Mondays for the first time in a decade. Same person, different beliefs, different decisions, different life. The Career Clarity Assessment, days 64 to 66. Before we talk about tactics, we need clarity. Most people are climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. They're pursuing success in someone else's definition of success. For 3 days, you're going to get honest about what you actually want. Not what you're supposed to want, not what would impress people, but what you actually want. Answer these questions in your journal. About your current work. What do I genuinely enjoy about my current work? What drains my energy? Am I learning and growing, or stagnating? Do I respect the people I work with? Is this work aligned with my values? If money weren't a factor, would I still do this? About your ideal work. What work would I do even if I weren't paid? What problems do I care about solving? What strengths do I want to use daily? What kind of impact do I want to make? What does success look like to me personally? About your constraints. What's actually stopping me from pursuing what I want? Which of these constraints are real, and which are stories? What would I need to make a career transition? What's the worst that could happen if I took a risk? Be honest. Don't censor yourself. This is for you. The author Cal Newport, in So Good They Can't Ignore You, argues that follow your passion is terrible advice. Why? Because most people don't have a pre-existing passion. They develop passion by getting good at something valuable. His advice: focus on building rare and valuable skills. Become so good at something that you have leverage. Then use that leverage to craft a career that fits your life. The Value Creation Mindset, days 67 to 69. Here's a mental shift that changes everything. Stop thinking about what you can get. Start thinking about what you can give. Most people approach their career from a scarcity mindset. How much can I get paid? What benefits can I negotiate? What's in it for me? High performers think differently. How much value can I create? What problems can I solve? How can I become indispensable? When you focus on creating value, opportunities find you. You get promoted. You get recruited. You build a reputation. Doors open. The entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk calls this jab, 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 right hook. Give value, give value, give value, then ask for something. Most people lead with the ask. They wonder why they're not getting anywhere. For 3 days, practice the value creation mindset. At work, instead of doing the minimum, ask yourself, what extra value can I create today? Maybe it's solving a problem no one asked you to solve. Maybe it's helping a colleague. Maybe it's improving a process. In your network, reach out to 3 people and offer value with no expectation of return. Share an article they'd find useful. Make an introduction. Offer your expertise. In your field, create something valuable and share it publicly. Write a LinkedIn post sharing what you've learned. Make a video teaching something you know. Contribute to a discussion in your industry. When you become a value creator, everything changes. You're no longer competing on price or credentials. You're competing on the unique value you bring. The self-made millionaire Grant Cardone says, "Success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility. Not in an entitled way, but in an ownership way. Your career success is no one else's responsibility. It's yours." The Money Beliefs Audit, days 70 to 72. Now let's talk about money, because your relationship with money is probably sabotaging you more than you realize. Most people have inherited money beliefs from their parents and culture that keep them stuck. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy. I'm not good with money. There's never enough. Money doesn't grow on trees. I don't deserve wealth. These beliefs operate unconsciously. They shape your decisions. They keep you from earning more, saving more, or investing wisely. The financial educator Ramit Sethi teaches that your money psychology matters more than the mechanics. You can know all the right strategies, but if you have a scarcity mindset or shame around money, you'll sabotage yourself. For 3 days, investigate your money beliefs. Write down your earliest money memory. What did you learn about money from your parents? From your childhood? What stories have you been telling yourself? Identify your money scripts. Psychologists Brad and Ted Klontz identified 4 money scripts that drive behavior. Money avoidance. Money is bad. Rich people are corrupt. Money worship. Money will solve all my problems. Money status. My worth equals my net worth. Money vigilance. I must be careful with money at all times. Which script resonates most with you? How might it be limiting you? Calculate your real numbers. Most people avoid looking at their finances. That avoidance keeps them stuck. Sit down and calculate. What you earn after tax. What you spend, track it for a month. What you owe all debts. What you own, all assets. Your net worth, assets minus debts. Just seeing the numbers clearly is powerful. You can't change what you won't acknowledge. The investor Warren Buffett says, "Do not save what is left after spending. Instead, spend what is left after saving." Most people have this backwards. The 50/30/20 budget framework. If you've never had a budget, here's a simple framework. 50% for needs: housing, food, utilities, transportation, minimum debt payments. 30% for wants: entertainment, dining out, hobbies, non-essential shopping. 20% for savings and debt payoff: emergency fund, retirement, extra debt payments. Is this perfect? No. Will it work for everyone? No. But it's a starting point. Adjust the percentages based on your situation, but the principle remains. Pay yourself first, the 20%, then live on the rest. The side hustle or skill stack. Here's a reality. Relying on a single income source is risky. Job security is a myth. Even if you're not entrepreneurial, developing a second income stream or valuable skills outside your main job is wise. For days 64 through 72, brainstorm. What skill could I develop that would be valuable in the marketplace? Writing, design, coding, coaching, consulting, marketing? What could I do as a side project that might generate income? Freelancing, creating digital products, teaching, building an audience? You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to go all in on day one. But you can start building something on the side. Even an extra $500 to $1,000 per month changes your life. It gives you breathing room. Options. Freedom. The entrepreneur Naval Ravikant says, escape competition through authenticity. Don't try to be the best at what everyone else is doing. Combine your unique skills and interests in a way no one else can replicate. Days 64 to 72 practice. The professional development hour. Every day for these 9 days, spend 1 hour on professional development. Learn a new skill, take an online course. Read about your industry. Network, reach out to someone in your field. Work on a side project. Update your resume or LinkedIn. Practice a valuable skill. Create content in your area of expertise. Listen to a business or career podcast. 1 hour per day is 7 hours per week. That's 365 hours per year. Enough to become legitimately skilled at almost anything. The martial artist Bruce Lee said, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Consistent, focused practice compounds into mastery. Your career and financial life are not happening to you. They're being created by you through your daily decisions. Choose wisely. Chapter 9. Purpose and Vision. Finding Meaning and Long-Term Direction. Days 73 to 81. We're entering the final phase of your transformation. You've built the foundation. You've developed the skills. Now we address the question that gives everything else meaning. Why? Why are you doing all this? What's the point? What are you building toward? Without a compelling vision and sense of purpose, even success feels empty. You achieve your goals and think, is this it? You make money and feel unfulfilled. You get the promotion and still feel lost. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote in A Man's Search for Meaning, those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. People with a strong sense of purpose survive conditions that broke others, not because they were stronger, but because they had something to live for. For days 73 through 81, we're discovering your why, your purpose, your vision for a life that actually matters. Let me tell you about Linda. By most measures, she had made it. 6-figure salary, beautiful home, successful career, but she felt hollow inside. She described it as climbing the mountain only to realize it's the wrong mountain. During this phase of the protocol, Linda did the deep work of asking, what do I actually care about? Not what looks good on paper, but what makes me come alive. The answers surprised her. She realized she'd been living her parents' vision of success, not her own. She'd been performing rather than living. By day 90, Linda had created a completely new vision for her life. One centered on creativity, contribution, and connection rather than status and accumulation. She didn't quit her job or blow up her life, but she reoriented everything around what actually mattered to her. Same circumstances, different meaning, completely different experience of life. The deathbed test, days 73 to 75. I'm going to ask you to do something uncomfortable. Imagine you're 90 years old, lying on your deathbed, looking back at your life. What would you regret not doing? What would you wish you had prioritized? What would you realize didn't matter at all? What would you be proud of? This isn't meant to be morbid. It's meant to give you clarity. When you zoom out to the end of your life, the trivial falls away. What remains is what actually matters. Write your own eulogy, not the version that would impress people, but the truth. What do you want people to say about how you lived? What impact do you want to have made? What kind of person do you want to have been? The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most people spend their lives on things that don't matter, then wonder where the time went. For 3 days, sit with these questions. If I could only achieve one thing in the rest of my life, what would I want it to be? What would I do if I knew I only had 5 years left? What breaks my heart about the world, and what can I do about it? When do I feel most alive? What would I regret not attempting? Write freely. Don't edit. Let the truth emerge. The Ikigai Framework, days 76 to 78. The Japanese concept of Ikigai translates roughly to reason for being. It's found at the intersection of four elements: what you love, your passion; what you're good at, your vocation; what the world needs, your mission; what you can be paid for, your profession. Where all four overlap. That's your Ikigai. That's the sweet spot where work doesn't feel like work, where you're energized rather than drained, where you're contributing something valuable. For 3 days, map your Ikigai. What do I love? List activities, topics, and experiences that genuinely light you up. Not what you think you should love, what you actually love. What am I good at? List your natural talents and developed skills. Ask trusted friends what they think your strengths are. Often, we're blind to our own gifts. What does the world need? What problems do you see that need solving? What causes matter to you? Where is there suffering you want to alleviate? What can I be paid for? What skills or services have marketplace value? Where do your abilities intersect with what people will pay for? Be patient with this process. Your Ikigai might not be immediately obvious. That's okay. You're planting seeds that will grow over time. The author Elizabeth Gilbert says, "Your passion doesn't arrive fully formed. You have to pursue what you're curious about and see where it leads." The 1-year vision and 5-year vision, days 79 to 81. Now that you're clear on your purpose, let's create a concrete vision. Your 1-year vision. It's 1 year from today. You're living your transformed life. Write in present tense, as if it's already true. What does your typical day look like? What work are you doing? How does your body feel? What relationships do you have? How do you spend your free time? What have you accomplished that makes you proud? How do you feel about yourself? Get specific. Details make it real. Don't worry about how you'll get there yet. Just describe the destination. Your 5-year vision. Now zoom out. 5 years from today, if everything went better than you could imagine, what would you have created? What impact would you have made? Who would you have become? What would be different about your life? What legacy would you be building? This isn't about being realistic. This is about giving yourself permission to dream big. You can refine and adjust later. For now, let yourself imagine what's possible. The author Napoleon Hill studied successful people for decades and concluded, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Not through magic, but through the power of a clear, compelling vision to guide your decisions and actions." Aligning daily actions with long-term vision. Here's where most people fail. They create a vision, feel inspired for a week, then default back to old patterns. The vision stays in their journal, disconnected from daily life. We're not doing that. For days 79 through 81, you're going to bridge vision and action. Take your 1-year vision. Ask, what would someone living that life do daily? What habits would they have? What would they prioritize? Then reverse engineer those habits into your current life. If your vision includes being healthy and energetic, that person exercises daily and eats well. So you do that now. If your vision includes financial freedom, that person invests consistently and lives below their means. So you do that now. If your vision includes deep relationships, That person prioritizes connection over convenience. So you do that now. You don't become the person and then live that life. You live that life, and you become that person. The philosopher William James wrote, "Act as if what you do makes a difference." It does. Every action is either moving you toward your vision or away from it. There's no neutral. Days 73 to 81 practice. The legacy letter. Write a letter to your future self, 10 years from now. Tell them what you're committed to, what you're letting go of, what you hope they've accomplished, what kind of person you hope they've become, what you want them to remember about this moment. Seal it. Mark it to be opened in 10 years. This letter is a time capsule of your intention. When you open it a decade from now, you'll see how far you've come. The poet Mary Oliver asked, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" That's the question. And for days 73 through 81, you're answering it. Chapter 10, Sustaining Momentum, Making Transformation Permanent, days 82 to 90. You've made it to the final chapter. Day 82. You're in the home stretch. By now, you've probably noticed you're different. Not in obvious, dramatic ways necessarily, but in subtle, profound ways. You wake up differently. You make decisions differently. You carry yourself differently. The person you were on day one couldn't have imagined being where you are today. That's the power of consistent, intentional action over time. But here's the challenge. Transformation doesn't end on day 90. Day 91 is when the real test begins. This is where most people fail. They complete the program, feel proud, then slowly drift back to old patterns. We're not going to let that happen. For days 82 through 90, we're building the systems that make your transformation permanent. Let me tell you about Carlos. He did a version of this protocol and had incredible results. Lost weight, started a business, transformed his relationships. On day 90, he felt unstoppable. Then day 91 came, and 92. And without the structure of the protocol, he started slipping. A skipped workout here, a lazy day there. Within 3 months, he'd regressed significantly. What went wrong? Carlos treated the protocol like a temporary fix rather than a lifestyle change. He thought transformation was a destination you arrive at, not a practice you maintain. Don't be like Carlos. Let's make sure your transformation sticks. The Keystone Habits for Life, days 82 to 84. In The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg introduces the concept of keystone habits, habits that have a ripple effect, triggering other positive behaviors. For example, people who start exercising regularly also tend to eat better, even if they don't consciously try to change their diet. Exercise is a keystone habit that cascades into other areas. For 3 days, you're going to identify your personal keystone habits, the non-negotiables that, if maintained, keep everything else on track. These might include morning routine, exercise, meditation, journaling, weekly planning session, daily gratitude practice, regular social connection, consistent sleep schedule. Choose 3 to 5 keystone habits that you'll maintain no matter what. These are your anchors. As long as these habits stay intact, you stay on track. Write them down. Make them concrete. Exercise is too vague. 30 minutes of movement before 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, is a system. The author James Clear teaches, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your keystone habits are your system. The Relapse Prevention Plan, days 85 to 87. Here's a truth you need to accept. You will have setbacks. You'll have days where you skip your workout, weeks where you eat poorly, moments where you react instead of respond, periods where you feel like you're regressing. This is normal. This is human. The problem isn't the setback, it's how you interpret it. Most people experience one setback and think, see, I knew I couldn't sustain this. I'm back to my old self. Then they give up entirely. But a setback isn't failure. It's data. It's feedback. It's a chance to learn and adjust. The psychologist Alan Marlatt developed relapse prevention strategies for addiction, but they apply to any behavior change. His key insight: the abstinence violation effect. When people have one slip, they spiral into complete relapse because they think, I've already ruined it, so why bother? We're going to prevent that spiral. For days 85 through 87, create your relapse prevention plan. Identify your high-risk situations. When are you most likely to slip back into old patterns? Stress at work? Conflict in relationships? Travel? Social situations? Create if-then plans. If, trigger, then response. For example, if I'm stressed and want to eat junk food, then I'll take 5 deep breaths and go for a walk. Define your comeback protocol. When you do slip, and you will, what's your plan to get back on track immediately? Maybe it's recommitting to your keystone habits. Maybe it's reaching out to an accountability partner. Maybe it's reviewing your vision and why this matters. Establish your early warning system. What are the early signs you're slipping? Maybe you start sleeping in. Maybe you stop journaling. Maybe you isolate. When you notice these signs, sound the alarm and course correct immediately.